We've got breaking news out of the NFL where the Atlanta Falcons are nearing a deal to make Raheem Morris their next head coach. That is the latest from our Jonathan Jones. Morris has been in LA for the past 3 seasons, serving as the Rams defensive coordinator. It's going to be Morris's second stint in Atlanta, where he previously served as an assistant head coach and defensive coordinator. He was also the Falcons interim coach in 2020 after Dan Quinn was fired, going 4-7 to finish the season. Morris will take over for Arthur Smith, who was let go after 3 years in Atlanta. Now, in the Rams postseason press conference, Les Snead shared his thoughts on Raheem Morris being a head coach. Take a listen.
I do want to say, talk about Raheem, just because I know he's interviewing for just about every head coaching job in the NFL right now, and it's been 3 years. But I haven't had a lot of opportunities to talk about him. Number one, I think we all know, great human being. The guy's coded to, let's call it, respect everyone, to build a relationship with everyone, no matter where you're at in the organization. And what's awesome is as he does that, you just see the respect flow back in his direction. And that's just he's coded for that. It's a superpower that I think would help any organization. He's a highly intelligent human being who happened to choose football and probably could have done a lot of things in life, but chose the path of football. I remember when he came here to be our defensive coordinator, having a relationship with Rich McKay in Atlanta. And Rich said, wow, what a unique experience, and let's call it unique football acumen that he had, based on he's coached in the defensive room. He's actually coached in an offensive room. And whether he was a mentee learning, whether he was partnering with people, whether he was mentoring and leading others, those great Tampa defenses, that great Atlanta offense that nearly pulled off a Super Bowl win. I mean, he was in the offensive room. He was in those defensive rooms. So there's not many coaches on the planet, right, who's been in both of those rooms on those two sides of the ball.
All right, quite the glowing recommendation there from Les Snead, and we're welcoming in our Douzable here to talk about, not only from Snead, but Sean McVay called Morris getting a head coaching opportunity well-deserved and long overdue. What's your initial reaction to this pairing?
Well-deserved is the best word. And Jacqueline, you rarely find coaches just giving a glowing or glorifying word in regards to losing a staff member, because that's essentially what Les Snead, the GM for the Rams, and Sean McVay were doing. They were pubbing their guy, knowing there's a good chance that they can lose him, but that's how good of a human being Raheem Morris is. I mean, I know JJ was just on here talking about Jalen Ramsey on Twitter, saying, low-key, the Atlanta Falcons got the best coach out there. And then you saw Andrew Whitworth, who played with the Rams as well, say, I'm so happy for my guy. He deserves this. Jacqueline, this is a guy that waited and bided his time. Let's not forget, over 10 years ago, he was a young coach at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, ends up getting fired there, goes to Atlanta with Dan Quinn, and you talked about it, right? Ends up being interim head coach there as well. Believe he finished 4-7 down the stretch after Dan Quinn got fired. But Les Snead talked about it too. This is a guy with championship experience. He went with the Atlanta Falcons to the Super Bowl, won the Super Bowl with the LA Rams, and this guy does a great job of developing talent. Not only that, he's a player's coach, Jacqueline. And in today's age in the NFL, you got to be relatable to players. Like, players have to be willing to follow you. I've never heard one player say anything bad about Raheem Morris. So I think Atlanta Falcons did a masterful job, because his name wasn't one of the names that was pubbed out there publicly in regards to potentially being one of the finalists to get this job. People were talking about Bill Belichick, Ben Johnson, Bobby Slowick had a few interviews. So great job by Rich McKay, who already, had some semblance of Raheem Morris, because he had him in the building, knew what type of man he was. Great job on them. Great hire by the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, certainly a player's coach when you're seeing posts from Whitworth and Jalen Ramsey. We'll talk more about the Bill Belichick buzz in just a moment, but I want to talk about the NFC South right now, because this past season, the season before, it's been a very winnable division. And when you think of the pieces that they have, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, Drake London, is Raheem Morris the answer that can maybe get them over the top? It feels like they're just maybe a quarterback away, but what is their ceiling for you, Lige, with this hire?
That's the first and foremost they need to do, Jacqueline. They got to find a quarterback, right? And more so, they need to find an offensive coordinator to develop the young quarterback, because they're most likely going to be taking a quarterback in the top 10 in this NFL draft. So Zach Robinson is a guy's guy's name I want to put out there. He, I believe, was the passing game coordinator and quarterbacks coach for the LA Rams. And we know this, Jacqueline, it's been tough for offensive coordinators trying to keep them from becoming head coaches, but then keeping your quarterback coach as well, because we've seen so many guys get elevated. We saw Bobby Slowick, Mike McDaniel the year before that. So trying to find an offensive coordinator, Raheem Morris, has got to be pretty quick on the trigger to find the guy that's going to develop this top 10 quarterback, because like you said, Jacqueline, they have some foundational pieces in that locker room. Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and then you got Jesse Bates on defense as well, who's an all-pro safety as well. So they have foundational pieces. The one caveat, they haven't had any productive quarterback play. So now it comes down to Raheem Morris filling out this staff, but then also filling out the staff the right way. That way he can develop this young quarterback of the future for the Atlanta Falcons.
And I know we showed, his experience as a head coach, of course, the interim head coach in 2020 with Atlanta, going 4-7. But Lige, that familiarity with the organization, how much does that give him a leg up as the head coach there?
I think it played a major role, Jacqueline. And I know we're going to talk about Bill Belichick a little bit later, but in regards to the way the NFL is shifting, right, the culture of the NFL, you got to have a head coach, right, that's relatable to players, that can lead these young men that people are willing to follow. And I think that played a role in it. Yes, a guy like Bill Belichick, the cachet with what he's done, and he is the GOAT as a head coach, but is his coaching style conducive to the current NFL landscape? Well, Raheem Morris' coaching style is definitely conducive to it. You don't get a rave review from perennial all-pros and GMs and head coaches if you're not the guy to be a leader of men, and that's what Raheem Morris is. So I think when you look at it, Arthur Blank, the owner, and then also Rich McKay, they sat back and said, having Bill Belichick would be nice, but we need somebody that is going to galvanize this team, that can be around for multiple years, right, who is in tune with the current landscape of the NFL. So that familiarity with him when he was already there, with the Atlanta Falcons as an interim head coach. But not only that, let's not forget, he was the head coach of the Tampa Bay Bucks, right? So they saw him twice a year as a head coach back in the day as well. So the familiarity definitely helped in this search in regards to them picking Raheem Morris as a head coach. And again, I think it was a great hire, because every player I've talked to, I've never had one player tell me anything bad about Raheem Morris.
Let's circle back to Bill Belichick. We just showed the list, the head coaching carousel. Almost every single position has been filled. It's just the Commanders and the Seahawks now. JJ tweeting out that the Commanders are not interested, and also the Seahawks have not requested an interview with Bill Belichick. Is that so crazy? Lige, did you think a couple of weeks ago that we would be in this position where maybe in this head coaching cycle, Bill Belichick is not someone that gets hired?
It wasn't crazy to me, Jacqueline, and you know me, I like to keep it 100. And I said it. What I was just stating was just the current landscape of the NFL. Is it conducive to the Patriot way or the Bill Belichick way? And then, Jacqueline, if you look at 6 of those 8 jobs, I believe a lot of those jobs are going to need quarterbacks, right? Do you trust Bill Belichick can develop a young quarterback? Because ever since Tom Brady has left, it hasn't looked good for the New England Patriots, whether it's Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi, or even Cam Newton. Like, the quarterback position has struggled. Let's not forget, he decided to hire Matt Patricia as offensive coordinator, and Matt Patricia has a defensive background, right? Like, this was his first time calling plays in the NFL, and Belichick decided to make him the offensive coordinator with a second-year quarterback in Mac Jones. So I just think, again, the Atlanta Falcons looked at this, and other teams have looked at this, and even though Bill Belichick's the GOAT and you flirt with bringing in the GOAT to your program, is he currently conducive to what the NFL currently looks like, right? Will he be able to change our program around? Will the players be able to follow? Will they be willing to follow him, right? That's a real question that you have to ask yourself in the 2023-2024 age of NFL football. Yes, he is the greatest coach of all time, but again, does his coaching style, does the Bill Belichick way, is it conducive to the current NFL landscape? And I think we're seeing that most NFL teams weren't willing to roll the dice on that.
Lige, really, really quickly before we let you go, I'm just curious your thoughts. Do you think Bill Belichick is going to be a head coach in the NFL ever again?
No, Jacqueline, I stated this literally like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I think the best thing for Bill Belichick to do is retire. But I would hate for him to go somewhere and it doesn't go well. He's already tied for the most losses in NFL history with Tom Landry. I believe 15 wins away from Don Shula and taking over the most regular season wins. I would hate for him to go somewhere and end up being behind Tom Landry on that list because he wasn't able to turn the program around. So honestly, I think he's going to take a year off and try to revisit it the year after. But I think the best thing for Bill Belichick to do, honestly, is retire.